everyone, it's Keisha Charmaine and I'm back, and I'm here to tell you everything that you need to know about maintaining your locks, no matter what stage you are at, whether you have baby locks, teenage locks, or mature locks. It doesn't matter. And I know I have a ton of videos on my channel about lock maintenance, so hopefully this video simplifies everything. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to go in depth on every topic that I mentioned, so be sure to pay attention to the links above, because if there's any topic that you want further explanation on, I'll have the links up for a previous video that I've made elaborating on that subject. So let's get into it. By the way, I advise that you watch this whole video no matter what stage you are at in your lock journey, because a lot of the steps, a lot of the tips that I have are going to relate to other stages in the journey, and I'm not going to be repeating tips for the interest of time. Okay, so now I'm going to start with baby locks. First of all, shout out to everyone starting the lock journeys. Stay strong, stay committed, stay patient, you'll be alright. Now, my first tip is to start off with healthy hair. You don't want to start locking damaged hair, because then you'll have damaged locks, and that's not cute. No one wants that, okay? So make sure you start with healthy hair. I have heard of people starting their locks with permed hair. I don't recommend that. I guess it's possible because people have done it, and all I can imagine in the long run is going to lead to a lot of dryness and breakage. You don't want that. Now, regarding your lock installation, you want to consider how many locks you want if that's important to you. You want to consider what kind of parts you want. If styling is going to be important to you, you're going to want maybe a brick pattern or a diamond pattern. And when considering the size of locks, don't only think about, how the locks are going to look. Obviously that's important, but you want to consider how your hair is. Do you have a lot of hair on your head? Because if you don't, then you may not want thicker locks, because it may not fill out. You know what I mean? You want to consider these types of things. If you have a ton of hair on your head, you may not want them too thin, too skinny, too thin, because then maintenance may be a pain. But it's all up to you. It's all up to your preference. Some people may tell you to wait however many weeks or months before you wash your hair. I'm here to tell you, do not do that. You do not want to walk around with a stinky, funky, musty, dirty head. Please don't. And if you do, don't tell them you watch Keisha Charmaine's videos. Don't be so fearful of unraveling. It's a part of the process in the beginning. It's almost inevitable. But one thing that you can do to prevent a lot of unraveling is to wash your baby locks with a stocking cap. With baby locks and retwisting, you want to retwist the entire lock. You don't want to retwist just the roots like someone with mature locks would do. You want to retwist the entire length of the lock to ensure that your locks are going to be forming uniformly. And that'll help minimize lumps and loops and strange occurrences within your locks. Moisturizing baby locks is important as well. If you had loose natural hair for a little while before you started your locks, then you may know what your hair needs and what your hair likes. You want to stick to that with your baby locks, because your hair is still going to be your hair. Now, if you're like me and you're pretty much jumping headfirst into locks, you didn't really get to maintain your loose natural hair, then you're gonna want to experiment and figure out which products is best for moisturizing your particular hair. Now, I will always advise that water is the best moisturization source. However, that should not be your only source. You want to make sure that the moisture is retained. So you want to seal with oils and things like that. And I promise you, you do not want to use greases. You do not want to use petroleum products. And you don't want to use wax products, because it is very difficult to wash that out of your hair, and it will build up, and you will end up seeing gray spots in your locks. You may not see it, on a regular, but you may notice in pictures. Also, especially in the beginning stage of your locks, minimize your product usage, because this is a vital time in your locks formation, and you don't want all of these products interrupting the process. You want your hair to lock naturally. You want your hair to lock on its own without all of these products manipulating your locks. You may have issues with buildup. You may have issues with your locks having difficulty drying. Now on to teenage locks. So your locks are pretty much locking very well, you know, you're on your way to fully locked, but you're experiencing a lot of frizziness. Now, you can combat frizziness by using towels to wash your hair that are microfiber, or you can use t-shirts, cotton t-shirts, to suck the moisture out your locks. And those two things really help with, you know, maintaining frizziness. This will be the ideal time for you to take advantage of head wraps and scarves and things of that nature. Those help with maintaining frizzies. I don't advise that you prune your locks in this stage because you'll be cutting off hairs that may have been pretty necessary in locking. So that you may end up loosening out your locks, and in the long run that may lead to breakage and you losing a lock. At this point, you're probably more confident in washing your locks without a stocking cap, and that's good. As long as your locks have, you know, at least one spot in them that are locked, budding, then you should have no problem with washing without a stocking cap. It may unravel, but you can really just retwist it back. And again, retwist the length of the lock. Now on to mature locks. Now, your hair is locked, you've been in the game for a minute, you know what products to use, what products not to use, you know what styles you like, all that good stuff. Good for you. You want to be aware of your styling. Styling too tightly and too often can lead to thinning locks, and thinning locks can lead to breaking of your locks. And it can also lead to traction alopecia, aka baldness, due to over manipulation, and you don't want that. So beware of over twisting, over retwisting, over styling, and doing those things too tightly and too often. Now you may be washing your hair and you may be in a rush and you just feel the need to squeeze the water out and then go about your business and do what it do. Do not wring your locks. Do not do that to your locks, because you are literally ripping and tearing at the strands of your hair, weakening the cortex of your strands, essentially thinning your locks to the point of breakage over time. You do not want to do that to squeeze the water out. If you want to squeeze the water out, this is what I do. I simply squeeze the water out like that. This way you're not twisting and tugging at your locks. Obviously that's not going to be enough to completely dry your locks, so definitely wash your locks in the morning if you can, and let your hair air dry for the rest of the day if you can. Preferably be outside in the sun, like right now in the summertime, that'll be ideal. If you can, use the sun. Let the sun dry your hair out. There's so many benefits from drying your hair out in the sun. If that's not convenient for you, then use heat, blow dryers, overhead dryers, but try to minimize that as much as you can, because artificial heat is pretty bad for natural hair in general, but especially natural hair, locks, and your skin. Regardless of your technique of drying, you want to make sure that your hair dries completely. Make sure your hair dries completely, because if it does not dry completely, your hair will start to stink. That smell is mildew. See, while your hair is fully locked and more compact, it's harder for your hair to dry. So the things that you did while your hair was in the baby stage and in the teenage stage, you can't necessarily rely on that just to dry your hair, because your hair will not dry completely doing those things alone. Oops! I almost forgot to mention, I'd avoid conditioner during my baby lock stage and start to implement conditioner when my locks become a teenager, because conditioner can do a really good job at detangling your locks. During your baby lock period, try to implement hot oil treatments as opposed to conditioners and deep conditioners if you really want to give your hair some extra moisture. I'd recommend that you start using conditioners and deep conditioners once your hair buds, so during your teenage stage really. And pay attention to thoroughly washing out conditioner out of your locks, because conditioner can do a really good job at staying in your locks, getting stuck in there, and causing product buildup. Sometimes our locks need a soak. So if you can, soak in the tub and let your locks soak in the water. That'll really help to clean out your locks. Along with apple cider vinegar soak. You want to make sure that you're maintaining healthy locks. That's the only way that you're gonna experience your maximum potential regarding growth. Because just like loose natural hair, although at a slower rate, our ends still do get split, and split ends will lead to breakage. And if you don't trim locks that are in dire need of being trimmed, the dryness and the breakage will only grow up your locks and causing more damage to more of your hair. Does that make sense? So trim your locks as needed. Just simply go through your locks and see which of your ends seem to not be able to retain moisture. That's a way of knowing that your locks ends are very dry and unhealthy and split. Especially if you have bleached your locks, if you have over processed and over dyed your locks, you may need to really consider trimming as a part of your regimen. Personally, I have yet to trim my locks, but just knowing the amount of dye that I have put my hair under, I may need to at some point, but not yet. I'm not there yet. However, if you bleach your locks, if you bleach your ends in particular, then yeah, you're probably gonna need to trim your locks sooner than later. Now, in general, keep in mind everyone's hair is different, so that means everyone's locks will be different as well. What products work for one person may not necessarily work for the next. Do not listen to anyone's advice as the gospel truth for locks. There's no such thing as a lock Bible. There are no lock commandments. Everyone's lock journey is going to be different and unique, so keep that in mind. Learn your hair and learn what works best for you. Remember to be patient with your lock journey. Remember, it's more than a hair journey, it is also a spiritual journey. You're learning more than just about your hair during this time. You are learning about yourself. You truly are. Remember to refer to the links that I put up above throughout the video. If you have any further questions, please leave me a comment below. I'll be sure to respond. Thank you for watching. Love, light, and locks.